10%. That is the number. That is what analysts and the betting markets representing the sharpest minds in sports gambling currently give the Philadelphia 76ers as their implied probability of winning the 2026-27 NBA championship. 10% sounds low. I mean, in one sense, it is 10-to-1 odds, meaning the market thinks that there are 9 more likely outcomes than a Philadelphia championship. But 10% for a title contender in a 30-team league is actually significant, and understanding why requires understanding exactly what went into that number and exactly what could move it in either direction. Let's break down the actual probability of the 76ers winning the NBA championship. Not the narrative, the number where it comes from, what it assumes, and what has to go right for it to be wrong. To understand where the 76ers are today, you have to understand where they started this offseason, because the journey from there to here is one of the most dramatic single summer odds movements in NBA betting history. On the first day of free agency, before any transactions had been made, the 76ers were sitting at plus 6,600 to win the championship. That is a 1.49% implied probability. That is not a contender. That is a team that you do not think about when you think about who wins the title next year. For context, plus 6,600 puts you in the same conversation as teams that are quietly rebuilding and hoping to be relevant in about 3 years. Then they traded for Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics, a Finals MVP, a 2-time champion, one of the best two-way wings in the league. The odds moved from plus 6,600 all the way to plus 2,000, a 4.76% implied probability. Still not a favorite, still a long shot, but now a team that belongs in the conversation. Then, LeBron James signed his 2-year, $8 million deal. Within the first hour after that announcement, BetMGM reported that 98% of all title bets being placed were on the 76ers. The line moved immediately from plus 2,000 to plus 1,000 and has since settled at plus 900 across most major sports books. And obviously, plus 900 converts to a 10% implied probability using the standard formula 100 divided by the odds plus 100, 1 in 10. Fourth best in the league, behind only the Oklahoma City Thunder and San Antonio Spurs, who are co-favorites at plus 270, which converts to about 27% each, and tied with the reigning champion New York Knicks at plus 900. Philadelphia also moved to plus 350 to win the Eastern Conference, a 22% implied probability, behind only the Knicks at plus 330. That is the market's answer. Now, let's interrogate it. Let's start with what the 76ers actually have, because on paper, this starting five is legitimately difficult to build a case against. Joel Embiid at center, when healthy, one of the 2 or 3 best players in the NBA, a 7-footer who averaged 34.7 points, 11 rebounds, and 5.6 assists in the 2023-24 season, and won the MVP award in the 2022-23 season. Tyrese Maxey at point guard, coming off a career year as one of the most improved players in the league. Jaylen Brown at shooting guard, a Finals MVP and 2-time champion who was the best player on the 2024 Celtics team. VJ Edgecombe at small forward, 20 years old and already one of the most explosive athletes in the league. And of course, LeBron James, the all-time scoring leader with 43,440 points, 4 championships, and 4 Finals MVPs, who will be 42 in December and took an $8 million deal when he could have made 10 times that elsewhere. One veteran oddsmaker told Yahoo Sports after the LeBron signing, it puts them in the 1 to 1A conversation with the Knicks in the East. That is the market assessment from someone whose job is to price these things correctly and who loses money when they get it wrong. The 76ers bench is a little bit thinner though. Anthony Simons, LeBaron Phelan, and Dean Wade provide depth and shooting behind a starting five that is going to play heavy minutes. But the counter-argument is that this team's ceiling is so high that depth may not matter if the starters are all healthy. In the playoffs, rotations tighten anyway though. 8 players, maybe 9, and Philadelphia's top 8 might be the best top 8 in the Eastern Conference. The fit questions are real, but manageable. Maxey and LeBron will need to figure out their on-ball usage split, which is not a trivial adjustment for 2 players who both need the ball in their hands to be the most effective. Brown acknowledged last season that he had enjoyed being the clear alpha in Boston after years of sharing the spotlight with Tatum, and he is now the 3rd or 4th option on this team. Whether that affects his efficiency is something nobody knows until the season actually starts. But on paper, this roster is built to win a championship right now. There's no question about that. Here is the sentence that every single piece of 76ers analysis eventually arrives at, because it is truly unavoidable. The 76ers championship probability is really not about basketball. It is about Joel Embiid's body. Since the 76ers selected him 3rd overall in the 2014 NBA draft, Embiid has missed over 400 regular season games across his career. He missed his entire first 2 seasons with a navicular bone stress fracture that required multiple surgeries. He has had a torn meniscus, 2 orbital bone fractures, a broken finger, a ligament tear in his right thumb, a knee surgery that kept him out for 4 months in 2024, appendicitis ahead of the 2026 playoffs, and a collection of smaller injuries that have added up across more than a decade. The career numbers are genuinely difficult to look at. Over the entirety of his time in Philadelphia, Embiid has played in just 66.5% of the 76ers regular season games. Since his MVP year in 2022-23, the last season that he was at anything close to full health, he has played just 52 of a possible 137 regular season games. That is 37.9% availability over 2 full seasons. In those same 2 seasons, he has missed more games than he has actually played. In the playoffs specifically, Embiid has missed 11 of the 76ers' 75 postseason games since his first appearance in 2018, which sounds manageable until you look at the context. In almost every playoff series Philadelphia has played, he has been managing some injury that limited what he could actually produce. The Sixers were swept in last season's Eastern Conference semifinals by the Knicks, a series in which Embiid dealt with his appendicitis diagnosis and averaged under 25 minutes per game. The Knicks won that series in 4, and Philadelphia went home. And here's the number that the market is actually pricing when it says 10%. The odds maker at Yahoo Sports said it as plainly as it can be said. Sixers will go as far as Joel Embiid's health will take them. Not LeBron's age, not Brown's fit, not Maxi's development, Embiid's health. That is the variable. That is the whole question. If you believe Embiid plays 65 or more regular season games and arrives at the playoffs healthy, which his career history suggests happens less than 30% of the time in any given season since 2022, then the 76ers championship probability jumps dramatically. Estimates from sharp odds makers in that scenario put Philadelphia closer to 25 to 30%. That would make them the co-favorite or outright favorite in the East and a genuine threat to the Thunder and Spurs in the finals. If you think there's a 50-50 chance that he misses significant playoff time, which his recent history would make a conservative estimate, not a pessimistic one, then 10% is actually generous. LeBron James missed 22 games during the 2025-26 regular season with the Los Angeles Lakers. He is 41 years old and will turn 42 in December. He averaged 20.9 points, 7.2 assists, and 6.1 rebounds last season on the Lakers, which is not a statistical collapse so much as a repositioning. He is no longer the primary scorer on a championship-caliber team, but the facilitator who makes everyone around him significantly better by demanding defensive attention he then redirects. The case for LeBron helping this team is real and well established at this point. Because of him, teams can no longer double team Embiid the way they used to. There is now a genuine shooter and creator at every position, which opens up the floor for Embiid in a way that it has never been open before in his career. LeBron in the pick and roll with Embiid rolling to the rim is a matchup nightmare that most NBA defenses have no clean answer for. The case against LeBron is simpler. He is 42 and has missed significant time in 2 of the last 3 seasons, and the 76ers now have 2 of their most important players with documented histories of missing significant time at the worst possible moments. The compound probability is the real concern here. The probability that LeBron and Embiid are both fully healthy and effective across 4 rounds of playoffs in June is meaningfully lower than the probability that either one of them is. And it is the compound probability, both of them simultaneously for 17 plus games across 2 months, that the 76ers actually need. The 76ers' 10% is also shaped by who they have to beat. The Oklahoma City Thunder and San Antonio Spurs are co-favorites at plus 270, 27% implied probability each. The Spurs just won the Western Conference Championship before losing to the Knicks in the finals in 5 games, and they returned Victor Wembanyama, who finished the 2026 playoffs with 70 block shots, the most by any player in the first postseason since blocks were tracked. He is 22 years old and was the most dominant defensive player in the league last season. The Thunder finished with one of the best records in the NBA last season and have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is at the peak of his powers at 27 years old. They are deep, they are young, and they are not going away. In the East, the Knicks won the championship with 15 of their last 16 games in the playoffs and returned essentially the same roster. Jaylen Brunson is 30 years old and coming off a Finals MVP performance in which he averaged 32.6 points per game, the highest scoring average by a point guard in NBA Finals history. The path to a championship for Philadelphia runs through at least one of those teams, and probably 2. That is the context inside which 10% lives. Here is a statistic that should give 76ers fans genuine pause, and that rarely comes up in the conversation about this team. 23 of the last 26 NBA champions ranked in the top 10 in defensive rating during the regular season. Not top 5, top 10. Among 30 teams, over the last 26 years of NBA basketball, teams that were not top 10 defenses won the championship 3 times. The 76ers' defensive identity under their current roster construction is genuinely unclear. Embiid is an elite rim protector when healthy. LeBron is a capable but no longer elite defender at 42. Brown is a solid wing defender. Maxey is serviceable. Edgecombe is an athletic marvel who could develop into a lockdown defender. But elite offense, which Philadelphia will unquestionably have, does not automatically translate to championship-level defense, and the 23-26 historical baseline is a legitimate analytical concern that the narrative around this team's offseason is almost entirely ignored. Here's what the numbers actually tell us. The market's 10% is probably accurate as an expected value, meaning if you ran this season 100 times, the 76ers would win the championship in roughly 10 of them. But the distribution of those outcomes is not a smooth bell curve. It is sharply bimodal. Either everything goes right and Philadelphia is a genuine dynasty, making one of the most memorable championship runs in NBA history, or Embiid's knee gives out again in the second round and the season ends the same way the last several have. The gap between those two outcomes is massive, and it is almost entirely determined by one variable that has nothing to do with basketball strategy, roster construction, or coaching adjustments. The 76ers are the most interesting team in the NBA right now. They have the highest ceiling of any team in the Eastern Conference on paper. They have the most star power of any team assembled in years. They have LeBron James on a championship chase at 42 years old, which is one of the most compelling storylines in sports. And they have Joel Embiid, whose left knee will ultimately decide whether any of it matters. 10%. That is what the market says. That number will move dramatically the moment Embiid either stays on the court through November and December, or the moment he goes down again. Everything else, the starting five, the bench depth, the fit questions, the LeBron age concerns, the defense, the path through the East, everything else is secondary to one question that will be answered one way or another between now and April. Is Joel Embiid healthy? Drop your prediction in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.